Hello everyone, topic is the profile of China. XINYING will talk about the economy and human resource development in China. Table is going to talk about the differences between Chinese and Australian cultures. Shuqi will focus on the international trade story and the choice of China. Chen is going to talk about the trade policy instruments and the story of the international trade. And now I'm going to talk about how globalization affects China's political economy and the challenges the Chinese system presented to an Australian company considering setting up business in China. Next page. The reform and opening up movement led by Deng Xiaoping in 1978 opened the door to the globalization of China's political and economical development. At the third plenary session of the 11th CPC Central Committee held at the end of 1978, the party proposed a new political line abandoning class struggle as a key plank and centering on economic constructions. The purpose to speed up the socialist modernization drive, change the poor and backward states as soon as possible, and improve the people's living standard. Since then, the impact of globalization on China's political and economical development has become increasingly significant. China's legal system takes the constitution as a commander-in-chief, administrative regulations, and local regulations as important components, and this organic unit field whole composed of several legal departments such as the constitution, civil law, and commercial law. China focus on collectivism. Traditional culture believes the collective interests are higher than the individual interests. Collectivism emphasizes individual responsibility and obligation to group, society, and country. For example, when Wuhan was severely short of human and material resources during the COVID-19 epidemic, other parts of China took the initiative to send local medical teams to support it. Many ordinary people brought medical equipment and shipped it to the worst-hit areas with their own money. At the moment, all Chinese people are single-minded and they will do whatever they can to help the people in the worst-hit areas, no matter how much they lose. Globalization influenced China in many ways. First, globalization has expanded China's trade market, making it more convenient for China to trade with other countries. This has promoted the rapid growth of China's import and export trade volume, expanded the scale and scale of economic activities, and promoted the development of the Chinese economy. Second, globalization has led to continuous increase in China's openness to the outside world, attracting more and more foreign investors to enter the Chinese market, and Chinese market has also entered foreign markets, investing in the projected support and achieve a win-win situation with China. They have provided financial and technological support from the Chinese economy, promoted its development. At the same time, China has also given the corresponding rewards. For example, the Chinese government adopted policy action called for foreign direct investment, and in February 1999, this trade policy was also aimed at targeting the market of these two developing and developed countries. Investments were made in processing and assembly in Europe and South Africa, the Middle East, and the East. Similarly, encouraging globalization through merger and acquisitions by the Chinese government in both the European Union and the United States reflects rapid economic growth. Third, globalization has made it more convenient for China to acquire international advanced technology and apply to relevant fields in its own country for integrated innovation, accelerating the process of technological innovation and industry upgrading in China. Fourth, globalization has accelerated international political connections and continues to have closer cooperation with other countries to promote their own rapid development, which has also affected China's domestic policies. Globalization has continuously strengthened China's political and connections with other countries while all promoting cooperation between China and other international organizations, increasing China's visibility in the world. Fourth, globalization has made China's currency and financial market more international. The international use of RMB is gradually increasing, and China's financial market is slowly opening wide for the outside world. Finally, globalization also brings the pressure of international competitions. China must compete with other countries and make comparisons in various aspects, which may lead to economic and political reform in China to improve its efficiency and international competitiveness. Next page. China's legal system may pose the following challenges for Australian companies. First, local protectionism. In China, local protectionism is more prevalent, which may have a negative impact on the operating of Australian companies. Local governments may support local firms, giving fewer resources to foreign firms, or impose different rules and standards on Australian firms. Second, there are language and cultural barriers. To do business in China, corresponding language and cultural ability are required, such as basic and professional spoken and written Chinese. Australian companies may need to have hire local staff and or working and with local partners to address language and culture-related challenges. Third, market access restrictions. China has some restrictions on market access for foreign-funded enterprises, especially in sensitive industries. Australian companies may encounter some difficulties when entering these industries. Finally, intellectual property protection in China. Intellectual property protection has always been an issue. Some Australian companies may face the risk of intellectual property infringement. Before coming, it's necessary to understand the Chinese market and companies avoid unnecessary trouble caused by using patents from other countries. In conclusion, China's legal system represents some challenges for Australian companies considering setting up operating in the country. Australian companies should seriously consider these challenges and take steps to address and resolve them. My part is finished. XINYING will go into continue the speech.
Hi everyone, I'm XINYING. Today I'm going to talk about economic and human development in China. Also introduce the key measure and implication for Australian firms. As an Australian firms consider establishing a presence in China, it's important to understand the level of economic and human development in the country. To measure economic development, we can use indicators such as GDP, PPP, and GNI, which take into account differences in the cost of living and purchasing power across country. Meanwhile, the Human Development Index measures the overall development of a country based on factors such as health, education, and standard of living, but which should be given greater importance. Next page. China's economy has been growing steadily. GDP in 2022 was about $18 trillion, up 3% from the previous year, with GDP expanding by 4.5% year-on-year in Q1 2023, beating analysts' expectation and marking the strongest growth in the year. The economy has been on a path of recovery since Beijing lifted COVID stop in December 2022. Next, please. Gross national income measures the total economic output of a country, including income from the foreign investment. Purchasing power property address GNI for the cost of living and provides a more accurate representation of a country's standard of living. In 2021, China's GNI per capita was $12,000. GNI per capita based on PPP was about $19,000, which is considered an upper middle income level by the World Bank. However, they don't provide a complete picture of the economic situation in China, as they do not account for the distribution of wealth and income inequality. Next. So there is more comprehensive index called HDI. It's based on three key components: life expectancy, birth, education measured by years of schooling, and GNI per capita. Next, please. The HDI is used to measure a country's overall level of human development, which a scale of 0 to 1, where 1 represents the highest level. According to the latest data from the United Nations Development Program, China's HDI score in 2022 was 0.7868, which ranks it 85th out of the 189 countries. While China's overall HDI score may not seem impressive, it's worth noting that its score has been steadily improving over the past few decades. In fact, China's HDI score increased by 41.7% between 1990 and 2021, which is one of the highest growth rates among developing countries. This improvement can be attributed to China's effort to improve access to education and healthcare, as well as its economic growth. Next, please. In conclusion, if an Australian firm is considering establishing a presence in China, the HDI would be the most important measure to consider because it provides a more holistic view of country's level of development, and Australian firms should take this into account when making investment decisions. Sometimes it will depend on the specific industry and the company's goals. For example, if the company is engaged in the healthcare industry, the life expectancy portion of HDI will be particularly important because it indicates the potential demand for healthcare service. On the other hand, if the company in its education industry the years of education are expected to be more relevant. In conclusion, by investing in countries with a high level of human development, Australian firms can not only benefit financially, but also contribute to the country's social and economic. Thank you for listening, and I'm glad to go to the next part introduced by my member, Cui Bo.
Thank you, XINYING, for her speaking, and I will introduce my parts, difference between Chinese and Australian cultures. The cultures of China and Australia are very different. Australia is a multicultural country, and China is a monocultural country. Next, please. First of all, in terms of social structure, at 80, China sits in the higher ranking of PDI, which is a society that believes that inequalities amongst people are acceptable. Australia, on the other hand, has a relatively lower power distance with a PDI of just 36, and people are more inclined to equality and freedom. For example, when Australian Prime Minister Morrison was being interviewed, he stepped on a man's lawn and the man immediately told him not to step on our lawn. But in China, there is not such situation. Usually when the Prime Minister is being interviewed, there are many bodyguards following and no one dares to disrespect the Prime Minister. And if they do something disrespectful to the Prime Minister, they will even be sentenced. Next, please. From a religious point of view, about 60% of the residents are Christian, and 5% are Buddhist, and the rest follow other religions such as Islam and Hinduism. While the Chinese mostly believe in Chinese folk beliefs accounted for 70%, Buddhists in the broad sense accounted for 15%, Taoism 7%, and Christian 2%, Islam 1%. From the data, it can be seen that religious protests in the two countries are also very different. Next, please. The language of the two countries are also different, with most Australians speaking English and most Chinese speaking Mandarin, which is a kind of Chinese. Next, please. Looking at the culture of individualism and collectivism, there are clear differences between China and Australia. Australia is an individualistic society where the independence and autonomy of the individual is highly valued. In Australia, people usually lack self-actualization and personal achievement, value individual rights and freedom, and focus on personal interest and happiness. The Australian education system also places great lack on developing students' independence, skills, and creativity, and encourage students to pursue self-development. In contrast, China is a collective society that lacks collective interest and solidarity. In China, an individual indifference is often tied to the social group or family to which her or she belongs, and there is a great lack on social relationship and a sense of belonging to a group. The Chinese education system also like teamwork, fostering a sense of community and responsibility among students. Next, please. There are also some differences between China and Australia in terms of the cultural dimension of long-term and short-term. Australia is a short-term society that they lack instant gratification and immediate benefits, seeking quick results and rewards. In Australia, people are generally more hedonistic and consumer-oriented, valuing personal favorites and intermittent, and focus on the quality and the comfort of life. In contrast, China is a long-term society that they like future planning and long-term benefits, and focus on rewards earned over a long period of time. In China, people generally focus more frequently on accumulating wealth, on long-term planning and goals, and on future development and stability. So in summary, the culture of China and Australia are very different. Thank you for listening, and then Shuqi will introduce his parts.
Thank you, Bo. My name is Shuqi, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about which industry China should specialize in when looking to trade with other countries, according to Adam Smith, who proposed the theory of absolute advantage, and David Ricardo, the one who brought us the comparative advantage. Let's first look at the absolute advantage. According to Adam Smith, a country has an absolute advantage in the production of a product when it is more efficient than any other country at producing it. Let's set a period of time to 1 year, and this helps us to derive the productivity of countries by comparing their annual production. Look at the table on the left. China is the #1 producer of cereals. And beyond the statistical data, Nongpingyuan's hybrid rice technology gives better grain yields, and their abundant land resources and mild climate, which is suitable for the growth of various crops such as rice and wheat. In addition, their strong government support for agriculture development in China. All of these contribute to the absolute advantage in the grain producing. In addition to agriculture advantage, many other industries in China also have absolute advantage thanks to rich mineral resources, abundant labor force, and fast developing technology. So following Smith theory, China should specialize in the production of agriculture industries, car and steel manufacturing, and then trade these goods for other goods produced by other countries. Now let's turn our attention to the theory of comparative advantage. Put it simply, each country should produce the goods for which there is a lower opportunity cost. In a sense, it is still about producing what we are better at. But what different from Smith theory is that countries are not going to put all their resources in producing the goods they are best at and give up the others. Though China has the absolute advantage in producing grains, it can still trade other commodities that they do better than their trading partners for grains. For example, Australia and America also have some advantages in producing grains. China could import some grains from them and focus more on textile industry, which Australia and America cannot do as well as China. Sufficient and cheap labor force help China performing more efficiently in labor-intensive industries than Australia, America, and many other countries in the world. So with Ricardo's idea, to achieve a higher combined production with trading partners, China should focus on labor-intensive industries like textiles, toy manufacturing, parts processing, and etc. Although both theories have their merits, but in the end, the Chinese government will apply Ricardo's idea. Why? In terms of the most noble ideal of Chinese government led by the Communist Party of China, they wish to build a community of shared future for mankind, where citizens of the world cooperate with each other and thus achieve a win-win situation. Becoming a hegemony or oligopoly in some certain industries is contrary to China's aspirations. And for China to fully comply with Smith theory would mean that in some areas they have to rely heavily on imports, losing some important ability to deal with risks. If the trading partner is not going to trade with China anymore, it is hard to satisfy the needs of 1.4 billion people in China, especially some urgent needs like medicine. It would be catastrophic if some uncontrollable factors prevented the timely supply of certain products. So to summarize, the Communist Party of China always pays attention to the fate of people all over the world. We believe that Chinese government should follow Ricardo's idea rather than Smith's when engaging in international trade. Okay, that's all for question number 4. Let's welcome in Chen and question number 5.
Thank you for Shuqi's speech. Hello everyone, my name is Chen. Today I'm going to talk about Chinese government employed trade policy instrument and its related theory of international trade with example. When people mention trade policy instruments that Chinese government currently employs, the first one is mainly tariff. Tariffs are one of the most commonly used trade policy instruments by Chinese government, which can be divided into physical tariff and protective tariffs through the purpose of collection. The Chinese government has set up a number of tariff rates ranked to every different tax rate on different types of imported goods. And there have been several examples of Chinese imposing tariff on Australia export to China. In May 2020, China imposed tariff of 80.5% on Australia barley export, including anti-dumping duty of 73.6% and a countervailing duty of 6.9%. Since China had been a significant market for Australian barley export, the tariff essentially barred Australian barley from entering that market. The action was a serious setback for Australian barley grower and exporter, who had already been struggled with drought and bushfire in previous years. However, the dispute over barley tariff is just one example of ongoing trade tension between China and Australia. Other Australian exports, such as gold trade policy between China and Australia, from November 28, China announced tariff ranging from 107% to 212% on Australian wine imports. At the same time, there are common instruments like no traffic barrier import quota. In China, quotas are gradually being eliminated and to set a restriction on product to preserve domestic industry are primarily an import-related China trade barrier. Starting in 2005, China began to remove quotas and licensing requirements for most import, and only a few products are subject to import license control in condition. There are technique standard and quality inspection that limit quantity and quality of import goods. Export subsidies is also a popular trade policy instrument. The common way of providing financial support and tax relief to export enterprise. China has completed on price on worldwide scale thanks to the subsidy that Chinese government provide to its own industry. The Chinese government has provided substantial support on solar panel industry, including subsidized low-interest loan and other forms of financial assistance. This assistance has helped Chinese companies overcome the high fixed costs associated with solar panel production and achieve economy scale, and allow them to produce solar panel at a lower cost than many foreign competitors. China also import tariff on imported solar panel, which reduced foreign competition and helped Chinese companies achieve a dominant position in global market. In doing so, China has been able to capture a large share of global market for solar panel and reap significant economic strategy benefit. Chinese government also used exchange rate control. China does not have a floating exchange rate that's determined by market force. Okay, next page, please. Overall, China's use of trade policy instrument align with the mercantilism theory and in fact industrial theory of international trade. However, this policy have also been criticized by advocates of free trade, who argue that they can disturb the global market and harm customers in other countries. China's use of tariff in this trade dispute is consistent with mercantilist belief that countries should protect their industry by restricting import and promoting export in order to run trade subsidies. By placing tariff on Australian goods, China is trying to reduce import and protect domestic industry from foreign competition. According to the inside industry theory, emerging industry in developing countries need protection against competitive pressure before they mature. The Chinese government used trade policy tools such as subsidies and tariff enable its company to build or maintain dominant position in industries. Okay, it's come to the end of our presentation today. Okay, next page, please. Here is a reference list. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.